Welcome to Hunden Happy Hour, where we share the stories behind the deals, developments, and decisions shaping destination real estate and the people making them happen. I'm Bethanie DeRose, Executive Vice President of Consulting. In today's episode, we will talk about a unique destination organization, the San Diego Tourism Authority, which has 900 hospitality organization members. The authority focuses on relationships with local and regional partners to spur tourism growth while also prioritizing fiscal needs and embracing innovation. Here to reveal her insights is Kerri Kapich, Chief Operating Officer of San Diego Tourism Authority. Welcome, Kerri.
Hey there, Bethany. Nice to see you. Even if you're in Chicago and I'm in San Diego, but it's all good.
Thank you for joining us all the way from San Diego. We know the sun is shining, as it always is. We'd love to talk a little bit about you first and have you sort of introduce yourself and your background. So, Kerri, you became the COO of SDTA in 2016. Tell us how you rose to your position today, what got you there, and how you've enjoyed your time at SDTA and all the accomplishments you've had.
Thank you. That's a great question. And it seems like I get asked that more and more these days. But essentially, what happened for me was I've been part of the organization for 25 years now, and I've seen a lot of ebbs and flows in terms of support for the tourism community here in San Diego. When I was promoted, we were coming off of a really difficult time where our previous mayor held up our funding and we were getting ready to close our doors. And it was during that crisis that I started working with the business community in a new and different way. And as a result, I was given a promotion to basically recognize the work I was doing besides tourism work and tourism outreach. And I think that for us as an organization and for me personally was a game changer as I started working with the Economic Development Corporation and the Chamber and others in a more meaningful way to really make sure that the tourism economy was seen as an important part of the San Diego community and not taken for granted. And the learnings that we had during that time period also helped us when we went into COVID. And again, we had issues in terms of California shut down tourism businesses. We lost 50% of employment within our sector. And again, we had to really think differently about telling our story in terms of why tourism jobs matter and what tourism does to benefit communities. So it's been really a blessing for me because I'm a native San Diegan. I'm a California girl. I've only lived in California, which I know is shocking to many people, but I figure if you're on the West Coast and you can make a living and make it happen, why not go for it? So I went to college in Santa Barbara, came back to San Diego, and I've been able to sell and promote San Diego ever since.
It sounds like such fantastic things have happened for the organization, for you and your role, for your team, but all through a lot of trials and tribulations. You've seen good times, you've seen challenges locally at the state level, but a lot of what you just talked about and a lot of the conversations that you and I have had over the last couple of years are about positioning and about how the organization is positioned. And you talked about, doing more than tourism and sort of extending that reach into economic development. As part of, extending on your background, talk a little bit about that positioning and the role that you and the role that SDTA plays in the San Diego community and the broader market.
So one of the things that happens, I think, for a lot of tourism organizations is that we get so focused outside of our counties or outside of our trading areas. So you start to lose maybe connection to those who are your greatest supporters in the closed rooms, in the political sphere. And it's really important to make sure that you've got boosters within your civic community. For us, we found that the more we talked about San Diego's business identity when we were out and about doing a wide variety of activities on a global stage, we were the only ones that were doing that. And so that really benefited our relationships with economic development. They have a small budget. They're not able to do the types of things that we do. You've seen this happen at states. The Visit California does this very well with GoBiz, which is their state partner with local government, talking about California and the California brand and why California is a great place to live, work, and play. We've done that as well here with San Diego. So when you have that opportunity to really think differently about the role that you have and the work that you do as being a foundation for other great things to happen, you start to go at things a little bit differently in terms of how you work with your partners, how you look at stewardship development of a destination, how you look at what's going to benefit your community and what's going to enable your businesses to thrive and your workers to thrive. So we've really tried to think about it very much within a 360-degree view, as opposed to we're just promoting San Diego outside of San Diego and not thinking about what's right in our own yard.
There's so much in what you just said that I want to unpack as we get into today's conversation. But before we dive into all of that, I do think it's worth taking just a minute here to talk about how great San Diego is, and we'll get into some of your favorite places soon in a little bit as well. But as you're well aware, and for all of our audience and listeners and clients and partners to better understand the community, San Diego is one of the premier coastal destinations in the U.S., probably globally. Um, with a tourism economy that's driven year-round by its great weather, as we already talked about. We'll be jealous of it for a long time. The beaches, strong mix of leisure and group demand. You've got great neighborhoods that make up sort of the city's fabric. San Diego consistently ranks among the top U.S. markets for visitation and tourism spending. It's not just a leisure destination. It is a major convention market, and we're going to talk a little bit about the future of the San Diego Convention Center in today's conversation as well. And Kerri, you just mentioned this, and we all know tourism is a critical economic driver for the region. It supports jobs, tax revenue, ongoing development. That tourism is something that continues to spur new development, attracts other businesses, it attracts other sectors to relocate to San Diego, and sort of the shiny destination that it is allows for that attraction to shine very bright. But like many destinations, it's trying to balance growth and infrastructure needs and community impact, a lot of things you just touched on. You know, there's a lot of different factors at play, a lot of different partners in your backyard and in the broader region. You and I got a chance to meet originally when I was working on the Visit California regional tourism plans, and we were trying to create these multi-jurisdictional regional plans to support tourism growth, tourism development, tourism partnership. And I was working to support San Diego County as a region, which is more than just SDTA's market. It is county-wide. There's multiple cities inside of it. But in that process, we got to know each other and understand sort of regional benefits, what was going on across the region, what was going on in San Diego, where there was relationships that could be furthered or bettered. So what did that regional process uncover for you and your team at SDTA?
I think for the regional program of work, which you led for the state of California, working with a wide variety of partners, you did a great job, by the way. It was really fun to work with you.
It was a great project, a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So I think that the change for all of us, and you hear this being talked about with so many partners across the US, development is not an easy thing to do. And smart development's an even harder thing to do. And some communities are really good at how they look at what is the mix that needs to come into a community to really drive benefit, drive economic benefit, provide, livability for a community, provide workers the ability to afford to live somewhere. It's a very complex ecosystem that exists. And for many places, they kind of grow up organically until all of a sudden they are really being managed and being put together in a way where it's a very intentional growth that starts to happen. So for San Diego, because of just the beauty of San Diego and how close we are to major other metropolitan markets, a lot of our early growth and success was more organic. It wasn't necessarily as intentional until you got to building the convention center, which is downtown and one of the best and most beloved convention centers in the country in terms of location and amenities, until you got to Petco Park, which is the baseball park for Major League Baseball, which is also downtown. You started to see more intentional where things were placed, how things were connected, what type of supporting infrastructure was needed. So what was happening with roadways, with rail, with light rail, what was happening in terms of airport expansion. We have one of the easiest airports to get in and out of. It's 7 minutes from downtown San Diego, a little bit unusual in the United States. So you started to see, I think, that there's a mindfulness to what you do in terms of growth. And San Diego has never wanted to be a huge, metropolis. It's a big city. It's California's first city. It's our second largest city within the state of California. But there's a real desire to make sure we protect the environment, look at things from a measure of sustainability. And those things had not necessarily factored into previous development plans for tourism. And I think what I learned going through the process with you was we needed to work even more closely with partners like the City of San Diego and their Office for Sustainability, taking a look at their climate action plan and what did that mean for industry, and start building deeper connective tissue. We saw that with the city of Oceanside, saw that with the city of Carlsbad. Our organization represents members that go from Oceanside down to the border. And we also have members who are south of the border in Tijuana, Mexico, and in Baja. So we started thinking about things a little bit differently as it relates to it's not just about the tourism infrastructure, which benefits everybody, the residents and other businesses that are attracted here, but it's also how we're taking care of the community, how we're making sure that there's place equity, how we're taking a look at sustainability, really trying to, again, think more holistically about how we ensure success for tourism, but overall success for our community and for our city.
Yeah, that notion of stretching from North County boundaries down past the southern border of the United States is really unique. I mean, it was one of the things that came out of the planning process for me that we're a border community, and it's not, we do a lot of these planning processes. There are counties that are rival counties or cities that are rival cities, and so you see some competition, you see some challenges with multi-jurisdictional efforts. We have two nations here. That is a really unique positioning. You've got investors, visitors, workforce crossing the border every day that are part of this ecosystem. That definition of regionalism is totally unique. There's only a few places in the country that experience something like that, and San Diego is one of them. We talked a lot about transportation infrastructure and those partners that rely on secure transportation, consistent transportation and movement of people, bringing workforce to different parts of the county and into the city. It is a big challenge, but it's a great benefit to the culture and the vibrancy of the city as well, and the destination and that experience that a visitor gets to have. So it is a really unique destination in that sense as well.
Yeah, San Diego, Tijuana is a very unusual community. It is one of the only, if you think about it, where you've got two nations right next to each other that really like the culture, the art, the food, the music, it's really embedded in both places. And we have a workforce that lives in Tijuana and crosses into San Diego. We have 6 million people crossing that border coming into San Diego for working or to do leisure activities. So it's a very busy border crossing, one of the busiest in the world, land borders in the world.
Yeah.
We have businesses that have manufacturing south of the border. They might be headquartered in San Diego, but they're manufacturing south of the border. You've got education, which is on both sides of the border. So people attending could be primary schools, could be secondary schools on either side of the border. So it's a very unusual situation. And it's something that when we were looking at opportunities to tout what makes San Diego, Tijuana region different, we talk a lot about it being a Cali Baja region.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that attracted the World Design Capital. They didn't pick one city, they picked two, San Diego and Tijuana in 2024. That got a lot of attention in terms of how we learn from each other, how we work together, how we collaborate. And then when TED was looking at where to take their conference from Vancouver and into their next era, they looked at the San Diego area again with a really close eye to the border and how unique that is. And what does that mean in terms of cultural identity? What does that mean in terms of empathy? What does that mean in terms of a different type of community, which is, not something you see in many parts of the United States or really in many parts of the world. So it's definitely a differentiator for our area.
You mentioned this word earlier, but that ecosystem, and that ecosystem for you in San Diego and the things that you have to advocate for, continue to drive education and awareness of other your partners and stakeholders, of seeing the need for that regionalism, the benefits of those things, but then there's infrastructure that needs to be there to support it. That ecosystem is really unique for you all in San Diego.
Definitely, yes. And you think about it, we have a land border, we have a marine, port that's here. So you have people coming in and entering into San Diego via waterways. And then, of course, you have air. So it's a pretty, robust system that's here to accommodate travelers and visitors and workers. And we're lucky that San Diego has a collaborative mindset. So you see that here. So our hotel community is very connected. Our attraction community is very connected. Our restaurant community is very connected. Our arts and culture community very connected. And you don't always see that. It's not so much the strong competition you might see in other areas. I think part of the secret sauce here is people do work well together and they try and make sure that rising tide lifts all boats, and they're willing to try new and different things. So that creates that innovative spirit that San Diego's known for as well.
How do you balance promoting San Diego and trying to drive return into San Diego, into all those partner businesses, with also balancing sort of the regional needs, the infrastructure challenges? How does that work for you all at SDTA?
So we're very mindful about planning and strategic planning. We take a look at data all the time to see how we're doing, how we're perceived, what the experience is like. If we find that we've got challenges that we need to address. So one of the things that's come up for us, obviously, is rail transportation.
Mhm.
So we have a beautiful Amtrak line that goes from San Diego up the coast. But one of the challenges is that that line is right along, cliffways. So sometimes you have problems where, they have to close the rail line because there's obstruction and there's other things that are going on. It is definitely something that you have to constantly be looking at and talking to people, both stakeholders, but then also to the traveler and your customer. So if you're having issues, what is your customer telling you? And are there things you can do differently as a result of what they are saying? Do you need to address certain issues in regards to the visitor arrival experience, for example? We've had to do a lot of advocacy around that, making sure that our airport and our land crossings are staffed well so that people can
Mhm.
easily get in and get through from a customs and immigration perspective. So things like that will come up because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're doing what's right by the community and you're doing what's right by that traveler who's coming in and giving you their well-earned money to spend some time with you.
It's a great segue to something else I wanted to talk about, was research. So you just mentioned the investment that SDTA makes in research, the way that you all believe in the value of research. And I think you guys have done a really fantastic job of not only investing in research, but the way that you sort of categorize it, for lack of a better term, and the way that you share it publicly with stakeholders, with partners. How does that research effort, the sort of global research effort of SDTA, how does that again help continue to position SDTA as a valuable partner, as a reliable partner in the community? You see real benefit from those research efforts?
Absolutely. I always say research is the foundation to everything that you do. And I've also always said that you should make friends with researchers. They are the people who are going to give you the insights, let you know where you're right, maybe where you're off track, what didn't you see, what you need to look at differently. So it's very much built into how the organization operates. And so we've had a very strong, not only program of work, but strong leadership in terms of who our director of research is and the partnerships that we have with other organizations. We do make a lot of our research publicly available. We do have partners who come in and subscribe with us. So we continue to do a visitor profile where we're actually doing intercept studies with 8,000 visitor groups every 2 years to find out why they're here, what they're doing, what their experience is like. We work with research partners to find out how our marketing is doing. What's the return on investment? How do
Mhm.
you think of San Diego versus a competitor like Las Vegas or like Los Angeles? So we really try and make sure that we make a smart investment into learning and then apply that learning to make sure that we're staying ahead of the game.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like you all have done a great job of staying ahead of the game and thinking about the future, what the organization needs, what the destination needs, and you're continuously willing to look at how do we as an organization need to support the destination, support our partners, and flex to be able to do that. So, how does this priority of research and investing in research and data benefit from organizational planning? Are you seeing that as ongoing, continuous work that you'll do in future organizational planning initiatives?
We take a look at everything from how are our departments doing in terms of KPIs. So that's ongoing. We take a look at performance measurement for our lodging community. How are we doing on a weekly basis? We look at it on a daily basis too. What's happening in terms of group trends? What's happening in terms of leisure transient trends? We look at all of that. So we constantly have a finger on the pulse of how we're performing and try and look too at how others are performing. So if we're seeing a downturn, is everybody seeing a downturn or are we an outlier? When it comes to planning, we go through an annual planning process. So because our funding is not secure funding, every year we have to apply for funding. And 90% of our funding comes from the City of San Diego's Tourism Marketing District.
Mhm.
Every year we have to go in, have to take a look at market conditions, have to forecast what we see happening in the 18 months ahead, which is hard to do in this environment. It's so murky out there. But we basically go through a process where we look at everything. We take a look at available resources, we look at what's working, what's not working, what do we need to do differently, what do we need to do more of, and just be more aggressive with. And that is every year putting together those plans and making sure we're on track or not on track. I mentioned the stewardship plan, that was a 10-year plan. It replaced a plan that was a 20-year master plan. Nobody can plan for 20 years now. It's just crazy. But we were coming out of COVID and we are like, okay, it's going to take us time to get our feet under us again because, like everybody else, we had lost staffing and we had lost resources, so we had to rebuild to a certain degree. So we have the 10-year plan to help guide us and to look at the things we didn't look at before. So workforce was one, sustainability was one. And we've done a lot of surveying of the community, the residents of San Diego to find out what they want. And then that helps us when we talk to elected officials in terms of who we are, what we do, and why we do it. So it's very much laid out very deliberately and how they point to the relevancy as well as that return on investment. The end of the day, it has to be, meeting our mission to drive visitor demand. Has to be that.
All right, Kerri, let's pause the conversation for what we like to call sip and spill. This is our quick fire Q&A. It's a chance for our audience to get to know you and San Diego a little bit better. Ready to spill?
Do it.
Favorite happy hour?
Oh, Del Mar Plaza.
Favorite Cali Baja takeout?
Oh, Roberto's.
Favorite art and culture venue?
The Shell, the Rady Shell.
Favorite beach?
Oh, Torrey Pines State Beach.
Favorite coffee shop?
I don't have one. My house.
Fair. Favorite sports venue?
The Petco Park for the Padres.
Favorite citywide or annual event?
Comic-Con, hands down.
Favorite dinner reservation?
Ooh, that's a really good one. Anything along the water. So really happy if I can get into La Jolla and sit somewhere overlooking the ocean.
That sounds lovely. That's our sip and spill. And now that we know you and San Diego a little better, let's jump back in. Kerri, I had the pleasure of attending SDTA's annual meeting. I believe it was about last year. And you and Kevin told an audience of stakeholders, quote, flat is the new up. And I'm sure that was not an easy message to deliver, and let alone an easy message to sort of stand behind. And I don't want to say make the theme of the event because it wasn't. The event was phenomenal and really well attended. But to tell your stakeholders and partners that flat is the new up, I'm sure wasn't easy. Tell me why you went in that direction and what kind of impact did it have with your stakeholders?
Well, first of all, thank you for being at our annual meeting. Secondly, a lot of people were not happy about that. I have to be really honest because we'd had such strong growth coming out of the pandemic. We had started marketing sooner than most destinations, and we were seeing great success. But it was very obvious we were not going to continue to see that happen, that there were many headwinds facing us as an industry and facing San Diego. So we said we have to be realistic. There's no reason to tell people something that we know is not true. So everything that we had, all of our crystal balls were telling us it's going to be tough, guys, and we'd better share that in a way that didn't get everybody discouraged, but was realistic. And to also tell people we have a game plan. We know what to do. We know when times are tough, what to do. We know how to accelerate recovery. We know how to invest the dollars to make sure that they had confidence in the team that's leading the destination. So that's what Kevin and I did. We said, hey, this is the reality of the situation we're in. These are the programs that we're doing from sales and marketing. Here's how we're building new partnerships, new storytelling. And at the end of the day, people were actually quite appreciative. And I've seen that happen more and more where people are giving really, they're spilling, the tea. They're telling, hey, this is the environment that we're in. And right now it's so hard to tell what's going to happen. Everything is so murky. So you just have to do the best that you can with the information you have at hand.
I remember being in the room and just being so impressed with you and Kevin and your willingness not only to get up there and say what you believed, but also you backed it with research. And we talked about this already, and I think it really came through in how the organization does invest in research. Therefore, to your point, they trust you to invest the dollars. They're confident with your ability to deliver. And even though you were maybe not giving, record breaking news year over year over year, you were setting the tone for we know where our need periods are. And I specifically remember you and Kevin talking about specific months and points in the year where you were actively setting your sales team up to go after certain need periods. And the fact that you had that forecasting and that future thought process to be able to stand on that stage, I felt really gave you all credibility, furthered your credibility as an outsider looking in. And I'm glad to hear that people appreciated it. I'm sure it wasn't easy to do and maybe not easy to listen to if you're a business owner in the community. But at the end of the day, appreciated the sort of truth telling. And it's something we really believe in and is oftentimes a position in our work that we're put in that position to help tell the truth, help people see through a cluttered environment or maybe interpret the data in a way that's going to be meaningful, and you really help that drive meaning to your partners and stakeholders that day.
I will just point to the role of consulting groups and how important it is for someone to be honest with you and to tell you what you maybe don't see. Maybe there's something that you haven't quite faced yet. Maybe it's something that you didn't quite understand because, this consulting group has seen it in other markets or in other situations, might have a point of view. So again, kind of to the point about research is the foundation of everything, taking in a lot of information from a variety of sources is really, really important. And I've seen that more and more with US Travel Association. I just saw Jeff Freeman address the commissioners for the state of California for Visit California last week. He was very honest about the headwinds and the tailwinds. And I think that that's important in the environment that we all are in today.
When you kind of had a chance to take a deep breath after that, maybe sleep on it, is there things you learned from having to deliver a tough message, or as you always would, a truthful and strong and right message and a research-backed message? Is there advice you'd give your counterparts out there about how you did that?
I would say just be brave because at the end of the day, you don't want to get up and say a bunch of things that are not true, that you know are not true, and then have a game plan. So make sure you are transparent and you are communicative. The more transparent you are, the more communicative you are, the better. We had going into that planning process, there were no sacred cows. So you have to really look at things with an honest eye. And I think in today's environment, it's not only continuing to have those honest conversations, but also make sure that you are being responsive to what's happening. It's tough because you have to think short term and long term. You can't just focus on one or the other. You think only long term, and you're going to miss, the problems that are happening right now that have a real impact on people's businesses and their pocketbooks. But if you only focus on the short term, you have really done yourself disservice longer term. And again, this is where the research and the data and having a game plan, having a strategic plan that looks at things in increments of different years makes a big difference.
And I mentioned this, it's one of the things that oftentimes, you said be brave. Oftentimes, a third party like us at Hunden, we're strategically used to do that research, provide that information, and sometimes it's us delivering that message because the organization feels that it could be better delivered through a third party at times. Not always. Like I said, I think you guys did a phenomenal job, and I was really impressed with you didn't use a third party to get up there and deliver that message. You did it. You owned it and really moved your destination forward, positioned the organization the right way, and were really sort of laser targeted on where we needed to focus. And I think that really set you all apart in my mind of how organizations out there should really set the benchmark for how they talk to partners in meetings like that and other meetings throughout the year, not just once a year.
Yeah, it's always a matter of trying to make sure you get the tone right for the times, right? We've had annual meetings that have been very celebratory. We've had annual meetings that have been very introspective, very creative, bringing in maybe different types of businesses or partners that typically aren't part of the tourism community. So I think, it's really what's happening, what's going on, how can you provide value to those stakeholders? What do they really need to hear? What's going to be motivating? What's going to help them get through the next 12 months, 18 months, 24 months? That's important.
You mentioned, annual meeting, these conversations that have been ongoing. Speaking of things that we've all followed for what feels like years now, but the San Diego Convention Center. So the expansion efforts, the process that has gone through. Talk to us about the latest update and what's next for the convention center.
The convention center, it sits on a complicated piece of land. You have California Coastal Commission involvement because it is on tideland property. So you have that, you have City of San Diego, and you have private property. So it is definitely a little bit of a tricky situation. I can remember in 2012, I was at the California Coastal Commission helping advocate for expansion. That was the first step in what we did. The next was figuring out the financing of the expanded building. So that was a ballot measure that went forward in 2020 called Measure C, Yes for a Better San Diego. So it was looking at raising the hotel tax for the city of San Diego to expand the convention center, provide money for homeless services, and provide infrastructure improvement. So all of that was basically, a complicated deal to put together. Where we are now is everything's been approved to move forward.
Very exciting.
Building is 35 years old. So we're doing some repairs, like some of the HVAC systems and other things. And then we will start working through next year. What does that expansion start to look like? So that will be coming down the pike. Things have changed since it was initially envisioned over 10 years ago. So it is a very popular building. It is one of the preeminent meeting spaces in the United States. So we really want to make sure that we do things right.
Obviously, a highly desirable destination. The building becomes a highly desirable convention center. The opportunity to meet in San Diego, to be in that building, and to see the future of that building. I imagine meeting planners across the country and internationally are very excited to hear about next steps there and improvements to that space and the future of meetings in San Diego.
Yeah, we host on average over 55 major events, primary events in the building. That's a lot of use of that building. So to have more events, stacked events, larger events, all of those are things that we have customers asking us for. So I would say stay tuned. Once we have more on all of that, I'll let you know.
Speaking of things that are coming in the future, near future, you mentioned TED sourcing San Diego for 2027. Talk a little bit more about what attracted TED to San Diego and what made you all at SDTA and with your partners want to have TED here in San Diego?
So TED is a global name and it's a global event. It's bringing together thought leaders, creators, uh, amazing talent from all around the world. And so the idea of being able to host TED is something that we got really excited about, but also too, our business community got really excited about. So Ted was interested in San Diego. A big part of it was the hosting that we had done for the World Design Capital and the work that we had done talking about the Cali Baja region. That was a big part of the initial appeal. When they came in to visit San Diego, we had them tour our higher education institutions. We had them get out and meet with those companies that are doing life-changing therapies and drug discoveries. And then also to companies like Algenesis, which has a diverse algae oil that they use to build products with. They're currently doing footwear, and then they're looking at other products. We had worked with them to create a biodegradable surfboard that we had used in a promotion. So it's a group that's spun out of the University of California at San Diego. And the University of California at San Diego is known for spinning out innovators, entrepreneurs that are doing a wide variety of things like Qualcomm, which is basically powering phones and other cellular devices. So it was really interesting for them to come in and to have this group, which is a very internationalized group. They are although they mainly are out of the Canadian market, they have workforce that's all around the world. And so for them to come in and to look at San Diego and say, you're really different, you're doing really creative and innovative things here, and you have a community that embraces events at your convention center. They looked at Comic-Con and some of the work that we've done, where Comic-Con's not only in the building, but it also flows outside of the building. They looked at events that we've done, like Major League Baseball All-Star Game, and just how the community rallies around these really iconic happenings. And so Ted said, well, that's great energy. We love that for where we go next. So we're very excited to host them. They'll be here in March of 27.
I think it's really emblematic of what San Diego offers, this great intersection and cross-section of global innovation leaders paired with an iconic destination, with the incredibly vibrant culture that San Diego has. So I'm sure it was a no-brainer for Ted to make that decision and come down to San Diego and put it on display.
We'd like to think that, with any of these things, you have to work for it, but it was definitely just such the mutual admiration society between us and between TED. So we're super excited to have them here, and we can't wait just to show off everything that this region has on offer.
Yeah, and speaking of community and things that community rallies behind, and you mentioned this earlier, but just want to come back to the World Design Capital. That was a big designation, and as you talked about before, they didn't choose one place; they chose two, and that cross-border relationship being a really special one. So, how does that further these things that we're talking about with culture, community, innovation? Were there more learnings from that World Design Capital designation that you want to talk about?
It was one of those where it was a grassroots effort that came out of the University of California, San Diego's design lab, and also out of the design community in San Diego. So this group got together. They had, members as part of the design community that were based in Tijuana, based in San Diego, and they had this wild idea of let's put in to be the host community, host cities for World Design Capital. World Design Capital happens every 2 years. Previously, it was in Valencia. The next one will be in Frankfurt, Germany. They looked at San Diego, Tijuana, and they said, this is the most unusual bid we've ever seen. And they came and they toured, and they were blown away by the experience that they had. So just the ease of transportation over the border was important to them. They thought that was a really unique learning for the rest of the world. They took a look at the design that's happening on both sides of the border, the gastronomy, culinary is big. If you look at the Tijuana region, it's big in San Diego. They looked at all of the artists that are here that are basically doing art on their own. And then also the institutions, like I talked about the Rady Shell, which is where the symphony plays, which is right on the San Diego Bay and just a stunning venue. They looked at all of these variety of things that we have on offer. They went to Balboa Park, which is the largest urban cultural park in America. They were just blown away by everything. They did not know. So what it did for us in tourism is it gave us a different story to tell. We had many publications say San Diego, Tijuana is the place to go in 2024. And we saw a different side of our community. We don't often work with architects and designers and others, but it was really fascinating to do so. So I kind of feel like it just rounded us out with deeper storytelling and deeper opportunity to show people more facets of San Diego beyond just the neighborhoods, like go more into some of the cultural collections, like the Stewart collection and other things that are really unusual. So it was fun for us. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it really taps into a deeper level of what a cultural traveler might be interested in wanting to see and further explore. And even if you're not a cultural traveler, but being amongst those iconic destinations globally and not realizing maybe you're interested in that cultural thing, but that design captures your attention. And so now you've got something new and different to talk about that maybe you all have known about for a long time, but the world is now able to see and be exposed to that through new messaging and new storytelling.
Again, just another kind of a global spotlight on San Diego. And when you really think about the art and the architecture and the food of our region, it is very much embedded. It's part of our ethos of Cali Baja. It is unique. In fact, I should mention, so did you know that the California burrito was actually started in San Diego? It's the San Diego burrito.
I did not know that.
I know. We're trying to figure out how we can take back the name. So we might have to figure out a social media promotion to do that.
Well, I volunteer to fly in through my favorite airport, be downtown in 7 minutes, and do some taste testing of the San Diego burrito and help make sure we get that straight.
Yep, I think you should. We've been cracking up about it. We're like, why is it called the California burrito? San Diego burrito sounds so much better.
Okay, well, you talked a little bit earlier about being brave and doing some hard things. So as we sort of wrap up our conversation here, what advice do you have for other DMOs, and what have people taught you during your career at your time at SDTA that you want to pass on to other professionals?
I think it's important to connect with each other and to get outside of our own space. So it's really tough because we are busy people. We have a lot of industry events where we see each other as you're starting to build your career and your understanding of what it is to be in tourism, to be in hospitality, to be with the destination marketing organization specifically. It's a little of a strange world. But there are times when I think you learn more by going to another industry sector,
Yep.
bringing together experiences, how they're collaborating, what they're working on. So I think it's really important to be a student of a bigger community, if you will. So the nice thing is people in tourism and hospitality, they really like each other. They're really supportive. Everybody, if you pick up the phone and call somebody, they're going to help you. That's just the way that we're all bred to be. But I do think it's, good to learn from other clusters. And so we've been doing that a lot, working with higher education and then also to working with the life sciences community. So it's good learning.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I mean, a lot of what we've talked about in our conversation today is much more than marketing. And we talk about research and investment and infrastructure and the positioning overall. These are all things that you're doing in addition to marketing, but you have to do those things in your role on behalf of SDTA to ensure that marketing lands the right way, that you secure that funding, that you're able to continue to promote. So everything you're talking about and wanting to sort of be a sponge and continue to learn and grow so that we can better the industry and we can better our community. It's one of the things that I've sort of started to realize or talk about with folks like yourselves is I've come to realize we're not in the tourism business. We're in the community development business. Our revenue generator just happens to be a guest. So if we can further community, if we can further culture, if we can further economic development, and it's by helping drive a visit that causes that revenue generation that then we get to recapture and we get to reinvest in community. So we can invest back in that transportation initiative. We can invest back in that bridge work that needs to be done, or make sure that that coaster has all its clear pathways and we're moving people from point A to point B, and that there's more jobs, there's people coming into the industry. Um, by understanding how that ecosystem really works, we can really help make it better. And it's a lot more than maybe what we all originally set out to do as marketing organizations.
Yeah, I think that's why many people love being in the business, right?
Yeah.
They really feel like they're making a difference in their community, that they're really a part of making things better, making things different, and very well connected. You know what's going on. You have a finger on the pulse, but especially with our organization, everyone's mission driven. They're here because they believe in the mission, they're passionate about it.
Okay, so last but not least, Kerri, uh, if you could wave a magic wand, what outcome would you like to have a hand in creating in San Diego?
Ooh, so many good ones. So the convention center I know is going to happen, and I'm not worried about that in terms of where we're going on the convention center. And I feel like it's been a passion, and I've been behind the scenes on that for quite some time. I would like to, if I could, see more done for Balboa Park. It's was built in 1915, so it needs some love. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place, but it can be even more. And when you travel around the world and you go to all the different beautiful public parks around the world, this one is unique. And I would really love to see a more stable funding stream for the park and the ability to do more events in the park that service visitors as well as residents, and that we do a better job of showcasing the art of San Diego and the landscape of San Diego through that park. So that's been a passion project for a long, long time.
Yeah, the last time I was there, parts of it were under construction. So you're right. It's a beautiful place, with so many unique cultural assets tied into it. So it's a great place to see and experience, and residents and visitors alike. So that's a great one.
1,200 acres, it's huge.
Yeah.
Like, to take care of 1,200 acres is not an easy thing to do.
Kerri, in San Diego, is there a nonprofit that's a favorite of yours? We want to be able to, highlight an organization that's near and dear to your heart, and would love to contribute to that organization as a thank you for your time being part of this Hunden Happy Hour podcast with us.
Well, one would be Forever Balboa Park, which is a steward of the park. The other is actually the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank. We started working with the food bank during the pandemic because we were doing food drives for laid off hospitality workers. And I currently serve on their board. So the food bank, I know, would be grateful because it's certainly food insecurity is something that hits many families.
Yep.
It should not be a problem in our country, and children should not be going to bed hungry. So it's one that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Kerri. And I'm glad to hear that you're on the board. It means that we know that organization's in good hands, with you thinking about the future. And we'd be happy to make a donation, a contribution to that organization. So it's great to hear about that nonprofit.
Thank you. They would be deeply appreciative.
Kerri, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bethany. Great to see you. Next time we're doing it over cocktails.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunden Happy Hour. We'll see you next time.
Hunden Happy Hour is produced by Hunden Partners, recorded in the Hunden Partners offices in Chicago, Illinois.